What's going on, everybody? Primetime Fitz here with the Unapologetic Instructors. Today we're going to be doing the Incab inspection on a 2020 Freightliner Cascadia, and this is going to be the same for all P4 Freightliners. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with our seatbelt. Our seatbelt is properly mounted and secured, not ripped, torn, or frayed. It adjusts and latches properly. Next, we're going to go into our safety equipment. I have a fully charged fire extinguisher back behind my seat. I have my 3 reflective triangles underneath my bunk, and I have my spare electrical fuses up here in the glove box. Next, we're going to go ahead and do a safe start. So whenever we do a safe start, you want to tell them everything of what you're doing. You're going to make sure your vehicle's in neutral. You're going to put your code in. You're going to turn your key to the on position. We're turning it on to make sure that our ABS lights go on and go off, indicating that our ABS is working properly. This time we're going to go ahead and start the truck. So now that the truck is started, we're going to go and push our tractor and our trailer protection valves in. This is going to help prepare us for the air brake test. That way, then whenever you finish talking about everything inside the cab, when you get to the end of it, your air pressure should be charged to the governor cutout. So we're going to start out with our gauges. Our oil pressure is rising to the normal operating range. Our voltmeter is charging between 13 and 14 volts. Our air pressure is rising to the governor cutout between 120 and 140 psi. Our water temperature is rising to the normal operating range. Next, we're going to go into our indicators. We have our left turn signal indicator. We have our right turn signal indicator. We have our high beam indicator. And we have our 4-way flashing indicators. We have the city horn. We have the air horn. Next, we're going to go into the windshield and mirrors. My windshield is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no obstructions. My mirrors are adjusted to me. Next, we're going to go ahead and do our windshield wipers. So you're going to press this button on the outside of your turn signal. My windshield wipers are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. They operate smoothly, and my wiper blades are not cracked or dry rotted. Next, we're going to go into the heat and defrost. So we're going to crank it all the way to heat. I like to have it down here at the bottom where you can actually have the heat and the defrost working at the same time. Crank it all the way up. Mr. Examiner, my heater's working. My defrost is working properly, and my heater is working properly. Next, we're going to watch until our air pressure rises up to the governor cutout between 120 and 140 psi, which ends up being just past the second to last notch on your air gauge. So there we go. We're at 120 to 140. Now we're going to go ahead and start the air brake test. First, to do the air brake test, you're going to make sure your valves are pushed in. You're going to turn your truck off, and you're going to turn your key back to the on position. This is so that you can actually see your gauges move. Mr. Examiner, now I'm going to conduct my 3-stage air brake test. My first stage, I'm going to fully depress my brake. I'm going to wait for my gauges to stabilize. I should lose no more than 4 psi in 1 minute while listening for air leaks. So in order to listen for air leaks, you want to lower that window down just a hair. Fully depress your brake. Now that your gauges are moving, and see now the gauges have stopped moving, your gauges have stabilized. Mr. Examiner, will you please start my time? Alright, we'll go ahead and call that 1 minute. Release the brakes. Mr. Examiner, I did not lose more than 4 psi in 1 minute while listening for air leaks. Next, we're going to go into the second stage of the air brake test. We're going to pump down on the brakes until our warning light and buzzer come on at or before 60 psi. Mr. Examiner, my warning light and buzzer came on at or before 60 psi. Now I'm going to continue into the third stage of the air brake test. I'm going to continue to pump the brakes until both my tractor and my trailer protection valves pop out in between 40 and 20 psi. Mr. Examiner, both my tractor, my trailer protection valves have popped out in between 40 and 20 psi. At this time, you've done your air brake check. Now you're going to go into your tug test or your emergency brake check. So now, or your parking brake check, you're going to go ahead and start the truck back up, because now we got to build that pressure back up. To help with that, you do have an idle adjust. Press this button here, your idle adjust is going to show up. Hold the up button. It's going to do it right around 900 RPM. That's going to help raise your PSI back up. Now we need to remove that chock. So I want to turn my wheel to the left a little bit, turn my wheel to the right a little bit to loosen up that chock. I'm going to go ahead and grab the chock. I'll be right back. So now we're back in the truck. I'm going to put the seatbelt back on. So when it comes to this one, you don't have to raise it up to 120 to 140. All you need to do is raise it up to enough pressure. That way, whenever you push your valves in to pull forward, that it's not going to have the warning light and buzzer come on, which ends up being okay right around 100 psi. So now we're at 100 psi. What I like to do is I like to go to my steering wheel. It's going to show my digital speed. This is going to come into play here in just a second. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do our parking brake check, or also known as a tug test. First thing what we're going to do is we're going to test the trailer. So we're going to push in our tractor brake, or tractor protection valve, make sure the trailer is out, rotating the drive, we're going to give a slight tug on the trailer. Mr. Examiner, the trailer held. Now I'm going to check the tractor. I'm going to pull the tractor, I'm going to push in the trailer valve, and now I'm going to give a slight tug on the tractor. Mr. Examiner, the tractor held. Now we're going to push both our tractor and trailer protection valves in. We're going to pull forward to at least 5 miles an hour. We're going to apply the service brake, and we should not pull to the left or to the right. Mr. Examiner, I did not pull to the left or to the right. I'm going to pull your brakes, put your vehicle back in neutral, turn your vehicle off. Mr. Examiner, this completes my in-cab inspection. We'll see you next time.
What's going on, YouTube? You here with old Jones Real Dirty. We about to do the pre-trip on the engine compartment for a 2020 or above, or newer Freightliner. So first off, we want to start with, we're going to check under the vehicle, make sure we don't see any leaks or hear any leaks. We're going to check the passenger side hoses, making sure they're properly mounted and secure, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking or abrasion, bulges, or cuts. We want to check our belt-driven alternator, making sure it's properly mounted and secure, not cracked, bent, or broken. All wires are connected and the belt is not dry rotted or torn and has no more than 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch free play. So then we go over to the other side. You want to check your general hoses on your driver's side, making sure they're properly mounted and secure, not cracked, bent, or broken. None are leaking, nor abrasion, bulges, or cuts. Your coolant reservoir, properly mounted and secure, not cracked, bent, or broken. Fill the manufacturer specifications. Your power steering reservoir, properly mounted and secure, not cracked, bent, or broken. Not leaking, fill the manufacturer specifications. Your oil level, fill the manufacturer specifications. Unseen to the eye, right on the frame is your gear-driven air compressor and gear-driven power steering pump. Both properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking. Your belt-driven water pump, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking, and the belt is not ripped, cracked, or frayed, and has no more than 3/4 inch free play, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch free play. Your spray hangers, front and back, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Your leaf spring is properly mounted and secured at both ends, not cracked, bent, or broken, not shifted. Your U-bolts, present, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, none missing. Shock absorber, properly mounted and secured at both ends, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking. Your steering gearbox and hoses, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, nor abrasion, bulges, or cuts, not leaking. Your steering linkage, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing any cotter pins or calcer nuts. 1, 2, and 3. Your brake line and hose, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. No abrasion, bulges, or cuts, not leaking. Your brake chamber, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking. Your slack adjuster and push rod, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. With brakes released and pulled by hand, moves no more than 1 inch. Your brake drum. So the coupling area, I want to check my airlines, making sure that they're properly mounted and secured at both ends. No abrasion, bulges, or cuts, not leaking. My glad hands are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not ripped, frayed, or torn. My electrical line, properly mounted and secured at both ends, not cracked, bent, or broken, no exposed wire. My apron, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, no unauthorized holes or wells. There's no visible gap between that and my skid plate. My skid plate, which is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and properly lubed. My safety release latch, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, in a fully locked position, inward. My sliding fifth wheel locking pin and my airline is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and the pin is in a fully locked position. And my hose has no abrasion, bulges, or cuts, and not leaking. My platform, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. My mounting bolts, none missing, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. My kingpin, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. My locking jaw, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, fully locked around my kingpin. I want to make sure I have enough clearance between my mud flap and my landing gear on turns.
D here from Unapologetic Instructors. Today I'm going to be going over the pre-trip of the driver's side, cab, and fuel area. I'll also be covering along the trailer as well. So, before I get rained on, let's get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the driver's side, door, and fuel area. First thing I'm going to check is my mirrors, making sure they are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and that they are also clean. Driver door, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and that the door also opens, closes, and latches properly. Our hinges, making sure they are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. The seal around the door, making sure it is properly mounted and secured and not dry rotted. Fuel area, making sure it is properly mounted and secured, not bent, broke, or cracked. Making sure that the cap is also unsecured and there are no leaks. Moving along to the inside or inner part of the vehicle, I'm going to start with the exhaust system. We want to make sure that it is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and is not leaking. The catwalk and the stairs, making sure they're also properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. We also want to make sure that there are no loose objects on this catwalk itself. Drive shaft, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is not twisted. The U-joints, also making sure properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and there are no objects in between. Frame and cross members, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There are also no unauthorized holes or wells. Torque arm, properly mounted and secured on both ends, not cracked, bent, or broken. Okay, moving right along to my spring hanger, making sure that it is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Okay, my spring arm, properly mounted and secured on both ends, making sure it's not cracked, bent, or broken. U-bolts, properly mounted and secured, making sure it's not cracked, bent, or broken, making sure that no cotter pins or bolts are missing. Shock absorber, properly mounted and secured on both ends and not leaking. Airbag, making sure it is properly mounted and secured on both ends, not cracked, bent, or broken on the frame itself, no bolts are missing, and not leaking. My brake hose, making sure that it is properly mounted and secured on both ends, no abrasion, bolts, or cuts, not leaking. My brake line, making sure it's properly mounted and secured on both ends and not leaking. Brake chamber, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, making sure it's not leaking. Slack adjuster push rod, making sure it's properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and when the brakes are released, should not move no more than 1 inch. All right, brake drum, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. The brake lining, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no oil or debris and not dangerously worn thin. Inside the brake drum itself, making sure there's no debris within the brake drum or on the brake drum itself. Okay, tires, properly mounted and secured. No abrasion, bulges, or cuts to the sidewall or the tread itself. The tread depth should be no less than 2/32 of an inch. And the inflation should be filled to the manufacturer specification, checked with an air gauge. Lug nuts, properly mounted and secured. None are missing. And there should be no powdery residue, which would indicate that one is loose. Hub seal itself, properly mounted and secured, not leaking. Mud flap, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. All right, so moving right along with the trailer, I'm going to start with the bulkhead, making sure that it is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no holes or missing rivets. Cross member and the frame, making sure they are properly mounted and secured, making sure they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and no missing cross members. Landing gear, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. and it's in the fully raised position with the crank handle in the secure position. Okay, frame and tandem release. Properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, with the pin in the fully locked position. Spring hanger, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Spring arm, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Shock absorber, properly mounted and secured at both ends, not leaking. Airbag, properly mounted and secured at both ends, no abrasion, bulges, or cut, and not leaking. Brake chamber, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking. Brake hose, properly mounted and secured on both ends, no abrasion, bulges, or cut, not leaking. Brake line, properly mounted and secured on both ends, no abrasion, bulges, or cuts, not leaking. My slack adjuster and push rod, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. When the brakes are released, should not move no more than 1 inch. Brake drum, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Brake liner, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Also no oil or debris, not dangerously worn thin. Tire, sidewalls and tread, properly mounted and secured, no abrasion, bulges, or cuts. Tread, not dangerously less than 2/32 of an inch. Filled to the manufacturer specification, checked with an air gauge. Lug nuts, properly mounted and secured, none are missing. Also, once again, no powdery residue, which would indicate a loose lug nut. Hub seal, properly mounted and secured, not leaking. Mud flap, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Moving right along to the rear of the trailer. Door seal, properly mounted and secured. Rear of the trailer. Door seal, properly mounted and secured. Not dry rotted, not missing. Making sure that the hinges open and latch properly.
Here for the light check. Mr. Examiner, I will check my lights and reflective tape and reflectors all the same way. Properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. Clean and illuminated. Proper color of amber to the front and sides and red to the rear. I'll need your assistance in my 5x5. I'll be checking my left turn signal, right turn signal, 4 ways, and my high beams. I'll be checking the front of the truck, the left side of the truck and trailer, the right side of the truck and trailer, the rear of the truck, and the rear of the trailer. I'll be checking my lights here, here, I'll be checking my reflective tape and my lights. I will check my reflective tape all the way down the side of my trailer and my lights all the way down the side of my trailer. I'll be checking my lights here. I'll be checking my reflective tape, my lights, and my reflectors. More reflective tape, my lights, and I'll be coming to the rear, and I'll be checking my reflective tape here and here, and my lights here, and my reflective tape here. I'll check my reflective tape all the way down the side of my trailer, and I'll be checking my lights all the way down the side of my trailer. My lights here, my lights here, my lights here. At which time then I would get inside and I'll perform the function while the examiner checks.
Yo, appreciate y'all checking out the video. You know what I'm saying? Hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell. You know what I'm saying? Comment. Now, if y'all want y'all license for the free, come here to Prime. Go to driveforprime.com and look me up, Orion Jones, or look up any of the unapologetic instructors. We definitely appreciate y'all.